Hello, thank you for clicking on this tutorial. In this video, I would like to talk about the UVdesk API. The UVdesk API serves to perform several ticket-related operations like fetching, deleting, creating, and loading tickets. These APIs can also be used to perform ticket-related functions for third-party applications as well. So firstly, let's see how we can integrate the API bundle with your installed Helpdesk project. So if you go in the search bar and type in API, you're not going to get anything because currently in my installation the API bundle is not installed. So to install the API bundle, please go over to github.com/uvdesk/API-bundle and scroll down to the bottom of the page where you shall find these two commands. So please open up your terminal, access your project root of your UVdesk folder, and then please run these two commands. You can copy and paste them like so. So now I am running my first command. So the first command is almost done running. After that, please copy and paste the second command. What this command does is it includes all the tables included within the API bundle inside your UVdesk database. So copy and paste this second command right here and run it likewise. So your schema has been updated successfully. After that, please clear your cache. So run this command also, php bin console cc for clear cache. Now the cache has also been cleared. Now after you have ran those two commands and cleared your cache, you need to make one more minor change inside the security.yml file. So please go down to config, open up packages, and open up security.yml file. And this is the configuration file. And you can see after a successful installation, the UVdesk API configurations are also included within the security.yml file. But what you need to do is copy the configuration and paste it above the customer configurations. Then the API bundle will work successfully. So just copy this, Control C, delete it. Now go right above the customer configuration and paste it. And lastly, what you need to do is just save the file. Now I am back in my UVdesk localhost installation. Let's refresh. And then if you type API, you get API right over here. And not only that, you get the link also under the settings area. So if you click the link, this is the page that shows up. Now what you need to do is now you need to create your credentials. So click this right over here. Enter a name. I'll just put a random name, for example. Make sure it is enabled and save credentials. You get a success message, but most importantly, you get the API access token with which you can interact with the API. Before we start interacting with the API with the use of Postman, let's take a look at the API documentation. So if you go to the API bundle GitHub page and click this link at the bottom, you shall get the documentation for creating a new ticket with this URL and the following parameters. With the API bundle, you can also add a reply or create a thread with this URL and these parameters. You can also fetch all of the tickets with this URL and these parameters. You can move a ticket into the trash with this URL and these parameters. And you can load a ticket or view a ticket with this URL and these parameters. Now we'll go ahead and use Postman to interact with the API and check its functionality and its ticket related operations. So inside my UVdesk, I have created 2 tickets with a subject containing error 1 and error 2. Now let's look at the documentation. So let's say we want to fetch all of the tickets. So we'll need to use this URL. The method would be get, and this is the authorization key value that we need to enter inside Postman. So let's open a Postman. Okay, headers. So I'm running UVdesk on my local host, so this is the URL that I'm using right over here. If you're running it on a live server, then your URL would be different because I am running this on my local host. So this is the API URL to get all of the tickets. For the key, you have to put authorization. For the value, you have to put basic, space, and then you have to enter your API access token, which is when you go over here, click on API. It has loaded all the configurations, so just click copy access token, go to Postman, enter this, and like I said before, the method should be get. Now once I've clicked send, this is the response that I've got, the JSON response I've gotten from the API. So it is displaying all the information relating to the 2 tickets. Now as we have seen, error 2 was the subject, and for the other ticket, error 1 was the subject. Where is it? Should be right over here. Error 1. So it's displaying all of the ticket related information in the JSON format. Now this is all the data, the ID of the ticket, the subject, the status information, which group it belongs to, the type, the priority, formatted created, the associated agent information, the associated customer information, the ticket pagination information, user detail information, and further agents and status information that it's displaying right over here. Now if we look at another example, let's look at the API documentation once again. So let's say I want to trash a ticket into the, move a ticket into the trash. So this is the API URL that I should use. The method would be put, and this is the authorization. The authorization would not change in this example also. So we'll just copy this right over here, Control C. Go to Postman. Now let's say, but we need the ticket ID. So let's say we want to move ticket ID 2 into the trash. So we'll just put 2 in the placeholder for ticket ID right over here. Put for the method, and we'll hit send. So after we have sent the request, the API returned this success message in the JSON format. So if you look in our front end, we should see, after we refresh the page and we go to tickets, now we only have 1 ticket. Before we had 2 tickets, but since the API is functioning properly, In the first example, it displayed the information for both of the tickets, and in the second example, it trashed the ticket with the ID of number 2. Now let's take a look at the code. So I'm inside API bundle, which is inside vendor UVdesk of my UVdesk project. Now let's take a look at the routes that are being used. Now as we can see, all of the API URLs are prefixed with API/v1. Like we can see right over here, all of the API URLs, they contain this prefix for all of the API URLs. So when we were fetching a ticket, this was the path being used, but inside the API URL, it was prefixed with this. But that's by configuration, so this was the path being hit. This is the controller being used, and this is the function being called, fetch ticket. So let's look at that. So inside our API bundle, we'll access the controller tickets, and we'll look at what's going on inside the function, fetch tickets. So first, we're setting an empty array named JSON, and we shall use that for our return value. When we return a JSON response, we get the entity manager, get the ticket repository, and we get the user repository. They all reside inside the UVdesk core framework bundle. Then we check the ActThis type, and now inside this UVdesk system, there are only 2 ActThis type. One ActThis type is customer, and the other ActThis type is agent. And if it does not find either of those, well then we shall send an error message inside our JSON response. Now if the ActThis type is customer, so from the user repository we get the customer through the email right over here. Sorry about that. Get the customer, so this is the user repository which resides inside the UVdesk core framework bundle, and we call this function find one by email, and if it exists, then we shall get a customer on the basis of its email. So if the customer does exist, we get all of the customer tickets. Else we just give an error message right over here. And if the case is that of an agent, well then we get the user from the user repository inside the core framework bundle, and we find the user also on the basis of the email. Now if the user exists, we'll set the agent to the ID of the user inside the request parameter. Else we set an error message. And if like I said, if no case exists, we just set the error message right over here and return the new JSON response. So then after that, we make JSON equal to the ticket repository, and we get all of the tickets. We append more information for user details as key value pairs, and we append extra data as key value pairs right over here also. Like we saw, we had agent information, the information regarding the status of the ticket, the information regarding which group the ticket belonged to, which team the ticket is associated with, the priority of the ticket, the type of the ticket, and the source of the ticket. And lastly, we send the JSON response. Now, if we look at the route, so the other example that I showed you was about trashing a ticket. So this was the path. Now, inside Postman, for our API URL, I would like to reiterate once again that it was prefixed with this due to the configuration. So this is the path being used, and in the example we passed the ID of 2 for our ticket ID. So this is the controller being used inside the API bundle, which resides in the API directory. and the file is tickets, and the function being called is trash ticket. So let's take a look at that, shall we? So we go inside API, tickets, and we'll look at trash ticket right here. So this is the function being called. The parameter is that of is a request parameter. So first we get the ticket from the request parameter, and then we find the ticket within the ticket repository on the basis of the ID. So we are accessing the ticket repository inside the UVdesk Core Framework bundle, and we find it on the basis of the ticket ID. If the ticket does not exist, we do this right over here. We give an error, no result found. Now we check if the ticket is not trashed. If it is not trashed, then we set its is trashed attribute to true by passing a value of 1, and then we utilize the entity manager to persist and flush. So we save the data in the database. Now, as we saw in the Postman, this is the message that was shown to us: success, ticket moved to trash successfully. This is that message right over here. We change the status code to HTTP OK, and also right over here we trigger an event to delete that ticket, i.e. moving it into the trash. If all does not go well, meaning if the ticket is not was already inside the trash, then we return with this error message. Now we set this error message, and in the end we return the JSON array as a JSON response. So thank you for watching the tutorial on the UVdesk API. Keep in mind that this is an open source project, and feel free to contribute. Like I said, once again, this is the URL for the UVdesk API bundle. Thank you very much.